Kevin Cash, number one priority entering the season. All of spring training, get the guy home from third. That is the calling card for this team. The Rays in 2024, only two teams in Major League Baseball history since 1969 had a worse average with runners in scoring position than the 2024 Rays. They went 2-12 with runners in scoring position.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
It is your boy, part two, Evan Closky.
And we appreciate it as always. Ulises, I think we need to inform the audience something very important before we
That's right. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started.
Also, do we not have some breaking news on the Rays stadium situation?
I'm getting this right now from the studio. Let's take it there.
"59 days since the bonds were approved. Any notable number 59s in Rays history?"
Not from the top of the dome here, but I do have to say Jose Lobaton, great walk-off homer, 2013. Yep. People forget. We also got Ryan Stanek wore it in 2017, his rookie year. That's pretty cool. But Jeffrey Springs from 2021 to 2024, I think he takes the cake. We talked about Jeffrey Springs a little bit in the last episode. Evan, should the Rays have, I know the $10 million was a big deal, so obviously he was the guy that was going to go. But in this alternate reality, isn't it better to have more than one lefty in your rotation if you've got 6 possible options instead of, just the one?
I don't really mind that as much. I think to me, if you're a starter, I don't care if you're a lefty or a righty. Can you get through the lineup a few times or, at least twice effectively? So when you get into the bullpen, you really need to make sure you're covered both sides of the plate. But for starters, my opinion, I don't know if anybody else out there has a different opinion, and that's fine. I'm not saying it's my way or the highway. Just in my opinion, I don't really care if you're a righty or a lefty. Can you get outs as a starting pitcher? And can you get a lot of them? So that's whatever. And not that Erik Neander would ever really admit to Stu putting a cap. Typically, it's always been like, yeah, we run through some stuff. We have an idea, yada, yada, yada.
Good, actually.
But we know. But it seems like at least that they took the Jeffrey Springs money. They funneled it to Ha-Seong Kim, and they got Boyle back in return, who's not Springs, but will be pitching for the Rays at some point this year and has just, an electric fastball. He's got some really eye-popping metrics, but he's a little bit like Wild Thing Vaughn. Just like, can you hit the plate? And that, typically Kyle Snyder finds the target to make it happen. So, but yeah, I'm not too worried about that.
If Joe Boyle becomes a superstar, we need to get a Boyle rules or something like that.
Ooh,
I
like
rules.
A Boyle rules.
Yeah,
I dig it.
Evan, you were at Port Charlotte.
Yeah,
recently.
can you see the receding hairline tan that I got over here?
Yeah,
you know what? If you hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have, but yeah, I see it now.
You should probably see a dermatologist.
That is my Port Charlotte. I lost hair, and I always forget to fill in the gaps here.
Is it
the
peeling?
top of your head looks like Mars.
Not peeling yet, but
okay.
it will be.
Okay.
Yeah. based on what Kevin Cash and Erik Neander put forth, any revelations or notable comments that they made are pretty much standard operating procedure that they do year in, year out? Anything that stuck out in particular?
Before that, Evan, I do want to say big shout out. You put the entirety of that on Twitter/X. So if you guys haven't seen that, it's about 32 minutes long. Evan did an awesome job at Closky WTSP to watch it all in its entirety.
Yeah, nobody does that anymore. Evan Closky does it. I remember in rolling on either the county commission or the St. Pete council meetings, like that was the one place where we could get the good tidbits and we didn't have to listen to the 6-hour meetings.
Yeah, well, and with the city council, I will snip the best of, because that stuff, those are some painful sessions to listen.
Agenda item number 42.
Yeah, it's not worth it. But
we have the purchase of a fleet vehicle for the Public Works Department.
First off, like for the general public, let me get on my mini soapbox here very quickly. I'm going to get off.
Please.
A lot of people, like when X came out, like, oh, you buy the check mark and so on and so forth. I think we've grown past that discourse, but like, I don't buy, I don't pay the fee for the check mark. I pay the fee so I can post videos of any length that to me. And before, when it was Twitter, I also had it for the same reasons, because I just think that's really important, especially for people out there listening and wanting more content. Like for me, stories that are significant length, so on and so forth. But one cool feature of X is that you're able to post videos really of any length. And the Rays don't post their press conferences. If it doesn't go through MLB, they're kind of their video platform. Sometimes you'll get some post-game reactions that will filter into the MLB Rays site, but it's not like the Tampa Bay Lightning where you get all their press conferences before and after games. The Buccaneers, you get all their press conferences on their YouTube page. You just don't get it with the Rays. So there's, for fans, I'm very cognizant of that. And especially with the state of the Rays, and this, I would have done it this past year, last season with the end of season press conference, but I actually, my family was visiting. They went to Disney, so I was off for that one. But typically I do it for that as well. So as far as like big tidbits off soapbox, big tidbits, I think that the number one takeaway was self-aware. I was very appreciative of Erik and his honesty throughout that process. I thought Kevin was also very transparent and more engaging than normally in those those beginning press conferences. And I was very appreciative of that. I not that you're going to like the answers out there. That's not the part of it. But, Erik saying, hey, we believe we're an average offense that has the potential to be above average if things break the right way. And he's right. I agree with him in the fact that, and we've mentioned this before, 2022, they were not that bad. In 2023, they were not that good of an offense. And then in 2024, they were not that bad of an offense. It's just, you're seeing, if you were to plot out like 1,000 simulations of how this offense is going to do, 3 straight years, we got to the extremes, like the little dots at the end, right, of the bell curve. We're just waiting to see a season that lands in the middle of the bell curve. And I think that's what Erik is kind of saying. Like, at this point, like, we are so due to have a year where we meet expectations, not exceed it and not go well below it. Like, we are due for a season that meets expectations. So they believe with their staff, their bullpen, how well their arms are, that they can really lean on them. And something that was music to my ears, I'm sure many fans out there, Kevin Cash, number one priority entering the season, all of spring training, get the guy home from third. That is the calling card for this team. The Rays in 2024, only 2 teams in Major League Baseball history since 1969 had a worse average with runners in scoring position than the 2024 Rays. They went 2-12 with runners in scoring position.
Love it.
And again,
Love it. He says,
like we said, they're not like it's hard to be that bad, and they weren't a great offense, but that is ridiculously hard to do. So there was a lot of bad luck, and I think Kevin even said it right. Like, we were being a bad offense, and then we were doubling down on the bad luck. So it's like but he also said but at some point you have to create your own luck, and it's yes you do. Like sometimes he says look, bunting is really hard, and I explain that a lot to we get through the muck of the 162. There's going to be a game where people are going to say, why didn't you try the bunt? Right? Not everybody can bunt, but there are some people that should be bunting in those positions, and like Taylor Walls, you better know how to bunt. Because, I need you to be productive with your out.
I don't need Yandy Diaz to know how to bunt. I don't need Junior Caminero to know how to bunt.
Correct.
But if you're a guy who is a 75 WRC plus career hitter in the major leagues, you better know how to bunt.
Correct. And that's the point, right? Like you gotta, and that's what Kevin said. Like they are going to try to do a lot of situational stuff. They're going to try to amp up the pressure, really try to replicate a ton of scenarios where they can hopefully get to a point where they feel comfortable in those positions to where they can perform, or at least just try to be better and make it a mentality. Hey, we are going to score this guy home from third. That is what we do. So I don't care how you do it, but we got to do it. Right. So I love that mentality. I love that thought process. I loved just Kevin's answer on that. I think he's been a little bit more buttoned up in the past and some of that small ball-y type answer stuff. And I think he just says I'm willing to try anything right now. That was not good enough last year. We know it, you know it, and we will try. We are going to try. And that's all we can ask. Any fan out there, just try. Just, and then look, if you bunt and you're out, then I'm going to be up here saying, all right, guys, look, they did it. They tried the bunt, ain't working, scrap it. Just go up there and hit, right? That's fine. That's part of 162 game season. Otherwise, I think that very high on Danny Jansen. They also, they're super bullish about the starting staff. Not like maybe what we were kind of drumming up in 2023 there, entering the year that we never got to have with that starting staff. But, evidently Taj's numbers are looking great coming out of off season and, building on what Pepio did last year and Shane Baz looking good, having McClanahan, people forget that is a purebred ace. He is an ace, Cy Young caliber type of guy coming back into your rotation. They're going to manage all these innings. Drew, Shane, other Shane, it's good to have six because naturally, they're going to all have to manage their innings because you can't throw Rass for 150. You probably can't get McClanahan past 150. Shane Baz has never gone north of 100. So, Taj is just in his second full season in the major leagues. You can probably build upon Pepio and Littell. I think they got bodies and, Pepio certainly built like a truck. He can handle some workload. But he's also young and has to manage that and learn how to fight through some of those walls he had during last year where the control started getting wonky and he gets into the fourth and the fifth and he starts losing it. So I think entering camp with six, a lot of people say who gets squeezed out? The answer is nobody. It's going to figure itself out.
I want to get into that because that's exactly the conversation that we had this week earlier. But first, we got to tell you guys about FanDuel because when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on that than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. Guess what? There was no fourth quarter comeback at the big game the other day on Sunday. There was none of that. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. So right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, that's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Speaking of the six-man rotation, that is not going to happen because in that press conference, he was very adamant, Neander was, saying we don't anticipate going into a six-man rotation. There's just a lot between now and that point in deciding. They've been very clear about that. That's the actual quote. Evan, you just mentioned it's going to figure itself out. And we agree, Kevin and I, you don't even have to worry about, who's it? No, it's someone's going to get injured. Like, it's just going to happen. They're pitchers. They get hurt. But let's go in this scenario where everything is roses, everything is perfect, and all of these guys on March 27th are as healthy as you can be. What happens then in that alternate universe? Does Taj get the boot because he is the youngest guy in the rotation? Does Zach Littell get traded? Does he get moved into a swingman role in the bullpen? Do you forego a bullpen guy and go with it one man less, but you're now able to piggyback, let's say, two dudes that you're trying to save innings in Drew Rasmussen and Shane McClanahan? You take the ball first, Shane, give me three and a third. Drew, give me 3 1/3. And now you've got yourself a setup man and a closer, and the game is over. And besides, making it very difficult for that opposing manager to put a lineup first for Shane McClanahan and then for Drew Rasmussen. Maybe they're out of a bench by the 6th inning. In this scenario, Evan, where do you go from there?
I would say the odds, again, are very slim that it's not going to work itself out. But let's play a hypothetical.
Yes.
I probably move Littell in behind McClanahan or Rass as they start. Tell McClanahan or Rass, you got one time through the lineup, and I'm going to throw Littell in on the back end and just have him burn through those innings that way, because I think the two guys you absolutely have to manage their innings, Rass and McClanahan,
right,
coming off of the injuries they had. Now Rass, of course, is, he was able to pitch last year, but he did so from a relief role, and also Rass has a crazy injury history, so that's always a concern, especially if we're going to throw him back into a starting role. So you really got to handle him with care. And I just think that, look, spring training, they're going to have their normal buildups and figure all that stuff out. But if it came down to it, even a worst case scenario, let's say, screw it, they're all built up and, we're not going to play those games. Then, I typically this team carries like a Wagas pack or – maybe it would be Boyle this year or Faedo. There are a bunch of options who they'll carry on the team who can give them length. And maybe just out of the gates, Littell, you're on standby here. You're gonna be our guy. Like, if we gotta, throw the ripcord out, maybe Kevin has a quicker trigger in April and says, I don't like this, I'm out. I'm just gonna toss you out after an inning, fatigue, we'll call it, and Littell, you're up, Like, it's just, you can go and kind of manage the innings that way of where you're not really feeling it. But, these guys are all using TrackMan or whatever fancy stuff they got these days that I don't know about. They're all seeing their numbers, and if anything's dipping or looking lower or something's not right, hey, we're going to put them on a 15-dayer, figure out what's going on here. Right. Slot them in and figure it out. It'll be arm fatigue. It'll be shoulder discomfort, whatever it might be. We've heard them all as following the Rays, right? I just think that naturally they will take care of their guys, and it does sound like the Rays want to start off the season. To me, and this would be my opinion as well, but Kevin mentioned something about, hey, we're going to find out what our team is going into those summer months where they're on the road and they're going to play in Tampa and have the potential rain delays and storm outs and all that stuff. They're going to have to be really cognizant to manage arms then. And it does seem like maybe out of the gates, they're going to say, hey, let's start out hot. We're home a bunch. Let's play it straight up. And then let's hopefully build ourselves into a good position to where we get into the summer and we can start managing some of these innings and, piecemeal it from there. So that at least was my read on it. But more than any other year ever, you have to start out fast. And you got to build yourself a cushion because the second half of the year is going to suck. It's going to suck. It's going to suck.
There's for this season. There's no. I hope they are 500 by the end of April. No, they better not be. And we're gonna get to that because I know Kevin wants to really dig in there. But first, I think we gotta play our now favorite intro.
It's time for Closky on the clock.
It does have jazz hands feel.
Yes, it is amazing. Thank you so much, Jack Voorhees, for that rendition. We appreciate it. That is the one Closky on the clock we'll play in its entirety, compared to the other iteration that we had. My question, Evan, is this. March 31st comes. Crystal ball. What happens between the Rays and Stu, the county, and the city? What's new?
Man, really hard to predict this. And again, I need a full episode to really talk through everything. And that might not even be enough. But my prediction right now is that Stu and the city of St. Peter are going to go their separate ways. Stu is not going to put his money into the pot. That deal is going to expire. I'm sure there will be some litigation stuff that maybe pops out. They're all at the negotiating table in some form or fashion right now, trying to figure this out, trying to come to a compromise, trying to see how they can make this happen. I'm not optimistic, though I still am fairly optimistic that the team will stay in the Tampa Bay area. But as far as reaching a deal between Stu and the city of St. Pete, from an outside perspective, it just seems like there's some bridges burned there. And I feel like it's probably in the best interest of both parties to go their separate way. That's my gut right now on recording mid-February.
No, you give a different view perspective than I think a lot of people here, and that's exactly what is needed. Switching from stadium stuff, yesterday at the press conference, or rather on Tuesday, was there a question that you wish would have been asked to Erik Neander and Kevin Cash that wasn't asked? And if so, what would that question be?
Considering I was there, I should have asked about the Jeffrey Springs maneuver and if that was a cap saving move or a way to shift funds to potentially get a Ha-Seong Kim. Should have asked that. I meant to ask about the gnarly schedule that they have, especially starting off. They have so many home games out of the front, and then they got the road and how they plan to manage that. I entered the press conference saying I was going to ask it, and then put my head down after I asked about Ha-Seong Kim, and boom, it was over. And so I wish I would have asked about that, and otherwise, I'm pretty good for a day one then. I think I'm pretty good with how day one went, outside of, I think, poking and prodding on those two questions where I was like, darn it, I meant to have that and I didn't.
Last question I have, Ulises, if you have another one, feel free to chime in. A little off the grid. Who do you think, Evan, will have a higher WAR in 2025? Eloy Jiménez or Danny Jansen?
Ooh, I'm just going to go with Danny Jansen because I'm going to go with the known commodity over the unknown commodity. And I think Danny Jansen's going to be very good for the Rays for a lot of reasons, on the field, off the field, but he's got to be healthy. And currently right now with Eloy Jiménez, I got to see that you're a thing again, because it's been pretty clear that for the past handful of years you're not. Mm-hmm. So until you prove to me you got the goods again, I'm going to go with Danny Jansen.
Agreed.
All right, with time to spare too. How about that?
Look at that. That's awesome. Evan, thank you so much for joining us for 2 episodes this week. Where can people find your amazing work?
At Closky, WTSP. If you want to watch the State of the Rays press conference, I did post it there. Also, 1010bay.com, 1010bay Plus. You can watch me 6 and 11 on 1010bay, period. But we also put our shows up there on the 1010bay Plus app, so you can watch it on the app. And, Rays will start playing games next week. We'll start trickling them into more coverage. The Lightning, I have high hopes for this season. And, March is crazy. We got the Valspar. We got Messi in town. So there's a lot of cool things happening in our neck of the woods. And you just keep it with us. And, if you hit me up with a question on the X, I will respond 99.9% of the time, unless you're a jerk.
Exactly. That's the rule.
I'll just mute you. I'll mute you. I don't care.
Evan, actually, last question before you leave. What is your plan on Port Charlotte? Like, do you go once a week, twice a week? Like, just get people behind the scenes, peek behind the curtain for folks.
Well, so I went there for the State of the Rays press conference. David Shealy did a story on Shane McClanahan's return that aired Wednesday night. So that is up on our website as well. And so David was able to go to Port Charlotte this week for the first day of pitchers and catchers. We will stay away from Port Charlotte probably for a little bit. And then what we end up doing is trying to catch them when they're in town. So they play February 21st, their first spring training game in Tampa at Steinbrenner Field. We will head to Steinbrenner and talk to them there. If they play in Clearwater, that's another great way to get them when they're a little bit closer to town. So that we try to save ourselves from the trip to Port Charlotte as much as possible, just because with the staffing we have, it's really, really hard. So we like to, work smarter, not harder, in the sense of just, hey, they're coming to town. We know it. We got the schedule right in front of us. So there's at least 2, 3, 4 benchmarks for us to say we can get them along the way. And we're able to kind of get video. They're really good as far as if it's not a TV game, they send us some video stuff that we can see and some sound, and we're able to chime in and kind of figure all that stuff out.
Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, great behind the curtain there. In the meantime, hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you next week.